Think about the last time you sat in a cracked vinyl booth. Think about the weight of the ceramic mug in your hand, thick enough to survive 100 dishwashing cycles, radiating a blunt, unpretentious heat. Think about the specific hum of a fluorescent light overhead, blending with the rhythmic scrape of a spatula against a seasoned flat-top grill. If you drive past one of these places late at night, you can still see the neon sign bleeding a pale pink or neon blue onto the wet asphalt of the parking lot. The sign is humming, but the door is locked. Inside, the stools are empty. The chrome accents reflect nothing but shadows. It is a quiet, devastating silence. For decades, these spaces were the background noise of the American story. They were the setting for Sunday mornings after church, the refuge for post-game Friday nights, and the sanctuary for the third shift worker looking for a place to land at 3 o'clock in the morning. Success is a lagging indicator. The diner didn't die because the food stopped tasting good. It died because we got addicted to convenience, and by the time we noticed the permanent closed sign taped glued to the glass, the failure had already happened 5 years ago. You didn't just lose a place to buy cheap coffee. You lost the last room in America where a trucker, a CEO, and a school teacher were treated as absolute equals. To understand what we are losing, we have to look at how these spaces were built. The American diner was never an accident of architecture. It was an intentional design for democracy. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they began as horse-drawn lunch wagons catering to night workers in Rhode Island. As the decades rolled on, they evolved into modular structures built from decommissioned railroad dining cars and trolley bodies. They were streamlined, clad in stainless steel, and dropped onto small plots of land along expanding highways and urban corridors. This industrial heritage gave the diner its unique layout. The long, linear counter meant that if you walked in alone, you didn't sit isolated at a table facing a wall. You sat shoulder to shoulder with a stranger. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined a term for this: the third place. Your first place is your home. Your second place is your workplace. The third place is the anchors of community life: the churches, the libraries, and crucially, the diners. These are the places where you encounter people who do not think like you, vote like you, or earn like you, but with whom you share a geographic reality. The diner was a pure trust reservoir of community. It operated without a corporate filter. There was no brand manager in a glass tower determining the precise psychological impact of the interior paint. The decor was an accumulation of time: local bowling league trophies on the shelf, signed photos of local high school athletes, and a calendar from the auto body shop down the street. In places like New Jersey, once the diner capital of the world, and across the boroughs of New York, these establishments were social safety nets. They were the places where a regular could sit for 3 hours over a single $2 cup of coffee because the staff knew their spouse had passed away. And that 3 hours of human proximity was the only thing keeping the darkness at bay. It was a space that traded not just in calories, but in recognition. But a shift occurred. Over the last 2 decades, the American landscape underwent what can only be called the Great Hollow-out. First, the indoor shopping malls grew quiet, their fountains turned off, their anchor stores boarded up. Then main streets across the heartland were systematically dismantled by big box retail optimization. We watched the physical spaces of human connection dry up one by one, and while we were looking the other way, a new cultural force arrived to colonize our mornings: the efficiency narcotic of fast casual. Corporate conglomerates looked at the diner and saw something terribly inefficient. They saw wasted space. They saw labor costs that couldn't be optimized. They saw a menu that was too long and a clientele that stayed too long. So they optimized the soul right out of breakfast. They built sleek, minimalist boxes with hard plastic seating designed to subtly discomfort you so you would leave within 20 minutes. They replaced the local waitress who knew your name, your kids' names, and your exact breakfast order with a QR code slapped onto a wood veneer table. They routed your transaction through an app that tracks your location and feeds an algorithm. We bought into it because the convenience was intoxicating. We traded the friction of human interaction for the seamless speed of a drive-through or a digital pickup shelf. We convinced ourselves that saving 4 minutes on a Tuesday morning was worth the trade. But you cannot A/B test your way back to a soul. When you replace a human being with a digital interface, you extract the social capital from the transaction. You get your calories, but you leave intellectually and emotionally starved. The efficiency narcotic gave us speed, but it left us profoundly isolated. Now the independent diners that managed to survive the onslaught of the fast casual chains are facing a final, brutal reckoning. They are caught in the complexity trap of mid-2020s economics. The math of running a traditional diner has become a mathematical suicide mission. Consider the fundamental anatomy of a diner menu. It relies on volume and low-cost staples: eggs, potatoes, coffee, flour, and ground beef. But the post-inflationary reality of 2026 has obliterated that foundation. Wholesale food costs have experienced unprecedented volatility. Supply chain disruptions are no longer temporary anomalies. They are structural realities. At the same time, commercial real estate values have skyrocketed, driven by institutional investors buying up land. The property taxes on a historic diner lot in a changing neighborhood can triple in a matter of years. This is the teeth of the complexity trap. A luxury steakhouse can absorb a spike in inflation by raising the price of a ribeye from $60 to $75. Its clientele expects to pay a premium. But a diner cannot raise the price of a 2-egg breakfast platter by 30% without destroying its core identity. The moment a neighborhood diner charges $18 for a basic plate of eggs, bacon, and toast, it ceases to be a democratic haven. It becomes an exclusionary space. The owners find themselves trapped between two equally fatal paths: raise prices and alienate the working-class regulars who form the backbone of their business, or keep prices low and slowly bleed to death financially. The result of this economic squeeze is a dangerous K-shaped isolation in our social geography. Look at any American city or suburb today. On the upper arm of the K, you have hyper-expensive artisanal brunch spots. These are spaces designed specifically for the affluent. They feature reclaimed wood, $30 avocado toast, and curated playlists. They are beautiful, but they are exclusive, acting as cultural gatekeepers where only a certain demographic feels welcome. On the lower arm of the K, you find the completely automated corporate fast food drive-thrus where human contact has been reduced to zero and food is passed through a window by an underpaid worker tracking an efficiency timer. The middle ground, the humble, reliable, independent diner, is becoming a ghost town. When you eliminate the middle, you eliminate the cross-pollination of society. You create a world where the affluent never have to look at the struggles of the working class, and the working class is pushed further into spaces devoid of dignity. We are sorting ourselves into economic silos, and our architecture is reflecting that division. The decline of the diner is historic. In New Jersey, hundreds of classic diners have closed their doors over the past decade, replaced by generic bank branches or luxury apartments. In New York, the classic Greek diner, once an indelible feature of the city's psychological landscape, is nearing extinction. Each closure is treated as an isolated business failure, a simple casualty of changing consumer tastes. But it is much bigger than that. It is the dismantling of our shared civic infrastructure. When the diner dies, we lose far more than just pancakes and cheap coffee. We lose the habit of looking each other in the eye. We lose the rare, precious opportunity to sit next to someone whose life experience is completely foreign to our own, and realize, even for the duration of a breakfast shift, that we inhabit the same world. We are quietly engineering a world where we no longer have to encounter the unexpected. By trading the diner counter for the isolated cocoon of the drive-through lane or the frictionless delivery app, we are systematically starving our collective empathy. You cannot build a shared society out of optimized silos. If we continue to treat every physical space of human connection as an inefficiency to be purged, we will wake up to find we have plenty of convenience, but absolutely nowhere left to belong. We are building a culture of hyper-convenience, but we are paying for it with our collective social fabric. We are trading the warm, messy, imperfect reality of community for the cold, predictable efficiency of an algorithm. The next time you drive past that neon sign humming in the dark, do not just see a restaurant. See it for what it truly is: a monument to a version of America that valued connection over speed and people over profit margins. And if you are lucky enough to still have one open in your neighborhood, pull into the parking lot, walk through the door, slide into that cracked vinyl booth, look the person behind the counter in the eye, and buy a cup of coffee. Because once these spaces are gone, no amount of technology will ever be able to bring them back.